Yeah, so Liam sent us an email with his game review, and it was a long game review, which actually in the end, half of it was more about some of the Hull FC players. So instead of making a ridiculously long game review, I whittled this bit out for us to talk about in the feedback and shout-outs, where I thought it was a bit more appropriate.
Yeah.
Sort of talking about some of the exiting players we've spoken about over the last few years, but this is Liam's take on it, so thanks for getting in touch with that from the Hull FC fan perspective. It's great to hear. Liam says, I think I'm the only Hull FC fan who will be pleased to see the back of Steve Michaels. I never understood why he is such a fan favourite. He is more than questionable under the high ball, regularly bites in defence for no real reason, and he isn't a particularly good finisher. I understand he always gives 100%, but think that should be a minimum expectation whenever you pull on the shirt anyway. We've had that conversation before, haven't we? Yeah. And then Liam says, gutted to be seeing Fanua go, though. Always has the ability to light up a flat game. Buzzing to be able to say I've seen Gaz Ellis' last game at the KC too. Only have to listen to some of the NRL greats to get an impression of the impact he had on the field and for the image he gave the English game over there.
Yeah.
Definitely. Gareth Ellis had a great career in Australia. 3 years on the trot, player of the season for his club before getting an unfortunate injury, and then since he's come back he's had a couple of dream team selections, lifted a couple of Challenge Cups.
Phenomenal player.
And even before that, he was a great centre in his early days, one of the best back rowers in the world when he was at Leeds. That led to his move to the NRL, and then he's put himself into a middle unit forward role now and excels in that too. Is great player. So I think Liam's sort of pride and joy at that moment, I think is
well placed.
Yeah, completely.
And I quite agree with him on the Steve Michaels thing, by the way. I don't understand why he's such a folk hero. I don't rate him that high.
Because he got given those tries that won him a game a couple of times in his first season. He was miles in fucking touch and still got given it.
No. I know the chronology of why, but I don't understand it. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, no, I'm sort of with you a little bit, Liam, on that one. I think, and I think he probably agree with me that Fanua is certainly the bigger loss of the two.
In more ways than one, yeah. Tom Eckley, at Tom Eckley 99. It's been a while since we've properly heard from Tom.
It's been a rollercoaster week for poor Thomas. We'll keep going and we'll talk more.
Okay. Oh, right, I think we'll get there. Right, he says, forgot to give my view on Warrington's shitter of a week last week. Gutted about Hiku. Would have loved to have seen a season at fullback. Smith going was even worse. My first game was a month after his appointment. Despite this season, always played reasonably fun brand and personally think he should have been given the chance to turn around. Short memories and disrespect from some fans disappoints me. And let's not get started on Matty Blythe being robbed of the Albert Goldthorpe medal, #Blythe for England.
Well, yeah.
I threw it into the news but after I'd sent it to you.
Yeah, he's left. He's leaving.
He's going to work in
the club shop at Bradford and play part-time for us. Where's he going?
He's going to work in close protection, which I had to Google because I didn't know that's what we're calling bodyguards now.
Yeah. There you go, close protection. Let's hope he handles his clients better than he handles some passes.
Oh. No. Or when he had that moustache for a bit.
That moustache that he bleached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He handled everything wrong there.
He looked like a Mexican teenage girl, that didn't it? Just like hide the moustache.
But let's not discourage Colin Render from keeping things going with his beard. All he needed was one dissenting voice.
Jeff
Mackenzie comes along and ruins our fun.
Jeff, we want to see some Biker Grove over there in Leeds. Looked brilliant. He looked absolutely brilliant. I hope he never gets rid of it. That is a phenomenal beard.
Yeah, it's going to. Already, I feel a tinge of sadness that his next selfie won't have that awesome facial hair.
I think definitely stick with it. It looks amazing. Absolutely brilliant, Col.
There we go.
Brian Davies.
Yeah, so Brian Davies sent us an interesting email, which I think Brian will want us to share with everyone, because I don't think his last couple of lines were aimed at us. Maybe it was. I don't know. But he said...
no, I don't think they are.
The ref for the Toronto versus Doncaster game was Billy Pearson. I'm pretty sure it was his first game at this level, and he had a good game. There were no marginal calls that the commentators even mentioned. I've known Billy since he was about 8, so it was a real pleasure to see him take charge of a game at this level and on the TV. People often talk about inexperienced refs and the like, so I thought it might be interesting to set out the journey he has been on, and it's a fairly typical one for modern young refs. He'd been reffing for about 8 or 9 years now. He started reffing under 12s and gradually moved up. He will have refereed well over 200 games at different levels. As a kid, he'd often ref 2 or 3 junior games in a day, and sometimes do that on both Saturdays and Sundays. He's refereed at all levels of the community game, ran the line at League One and Challenge Cup matches before, being the reserve official and in-goal judge at Super League games. He's refereed Super League Academy games, Super League Reserve games and big community final games. He also played the game for about 10 or 12 years, which is where I first met him, as I was his coach for many of those years. He stopped playing when he had to choose between playing or refereeing on a Saturday afternoon, as he was refereeing national conference matches. The carrot of being a full-time ref has been one of the things that has driven him to keep on going. Hopefully he'll make it to the top, we'll see. But his story does show the value of having full-time as an option, and also shows how much experience refs are required to have before they reach the Super League level. Like many refs, he also has considerable playing experience, though not at the top level. His performances are constantly reviewed, both live and in video, and he only progresses through the levels if he can meet certain performance, fitness and mental agility thresholds, i.e. being able to make cold calls under fatigue. Next time you bag a ref for not knowing what he or she is doing, take a second to reflect that they've done it all many, many times before and probably have a much better understanding of the game than we do. Brian.
Do you think that was him signing off, or was he saying that to someone called Brian?
He was talking to himself.
Than we do, Brian.
He was talking to himself after he had
Superb. Well
some calls in the Wakefield game.
I very rarely disagree with Brian Davies, and this is one of those occasions where I don't disagree with him. Where I agree completely with what he has to say.
It's one of the sort of best explanatory pieces we've had, and it's reminded me of a few conversations either on the Super League pod or my own Twitter that I had over the weekend with Ian Smith, the former referee, who was very open to people asking him questions and that sort of stuff. And you know, it's not so much trying to get his view; it's trying to get his view of how something you don't understand has come about, and that's really what Stuart Cummins should be doing on Sky rather than giving his view too. Although they'll throw in the views too, because Ian Smith's outside of the RFL network now, isn't he? Other than this job that he does with the mental health support work is doing, which is commendable.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a great story to tell, this of young Billy Pearce and
definitely
all the referees that do that sort of thing. And we probably all know referees that we've seen coming through the ranks from games we've gone to at lower levels, or maybe you've played in the community game and that sort of stuff. And probably, I think if we all sat back and thought about it, the referees do clearly know the laws of the game better than we do, and Fat Boy Rob better than Darryl Powell does. But that's another story.
There's another story. Okay, last one.
Here's another story from one of our faves. Sarah McKenzie at Scoots28Mac has had a hat trick in this feedback section, but this last one is definitely save the best till last. She said, I forgot to report on the big news. Joshua made 2 tackles on Tuesday and one pushed another player into touch.
There you go, look at that.
Well, Joshua,
obviously great strong defensive performance.
His chat he doesn't need much work on. His defence he needs work on, but the lad is working hard on it, and it's good to see that he's starting to get some rewards. And every time he makes some good hits and causes some good defensive things to happen and doesn't end up with mum taking him to A&E, it's something to certainly be celebrated. Whether it means he should get more sweets when tries are scored or not, there's a disagreement there.
I've been rewarding him for tackles, mate.
But he's done he might start tackling everything. I mean, he's been tackling everything in the house anyway also.
Let's develop an enthusiasm for defence.
Yeah, but great news. Well done, Joshua.
Perfect. Okay, that's the feedback and shout-outs taken care of. Then let's take a look now at news from around the world of rugby league. Okay, so to this week's news then, and Catalan Dragons icon Thomas Bosch has confirmed he will retire at the end of the season. Bosch is the last remaining member of Catalan's inaugural Super League campaign team in 2006 and has decided to call time on his career after spending the entirety of his professional days with the Dragons. He retires as the club's leading point scorer, having amassed 1,173 points in 221 Super League games, and remains the only French player to have scored over 1,000 points in Super League.
Yeah, well, it's meant we've had the joy of seeing his left foot, right foot kick try over and over again this week, which is great because it reminds us of some of the great things Thomas Bosk has been able to do, and he has been a really good player for a lot of different times, and other players that he's played alongside have got the plaudits a lot of the time. But I think there was a couple of seasons when he was with Scott Giroux where I think that was
at his best.
Yeah, sort of the early 2010s, probably for about 2 or 3 years. He had a lot of good games in an entertaining to watch team, which is unfortunately not the Catalans team he'll be leaving. But we'll see what he'll go on to do next year, because I'm sure he'll stay around the club and stay around the sport.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but well done to him on his Super League career.
Yeah, so at the different end of their career is Leeds Rhinos halfback Liam Sutcliffe, who has signed a new 4-year deal this week. The 22-year-old, who would have been out of contract at the end of the season, has put pen to paper on that deal. So, 4 years, that's a large commitment from Leeds Rhinos for Liam Sutcliffe. What do you think?
Well, he can play...
He's got the utility value.
He can play in almost every position, and every position he's been put in, he's played in to a good...
standard,
to a good level or above. He can, have a crack at kicking a goal. He's got a lot of things going for him. I think he's a very good player. Yeah. So to tie him down, now they can start to think about where he's best going to be used in the long run in that side. But I think it's a good signing for them.
Yeah, I do too. Toronto Wolfpack have confirmed the signings of Ashton Sims, Dave Taylor, Josh McCrone and Olsi Krasniqi for the 2018 season. It's a quartet, isn't it? The quartet become the club's first official signings ahead of their maiden season in the Championship after all 4 agreed to drop down from the NRL or Super League to join the Canadian club.
Yeah, whichever website I copied and pasted this one needs to
count.
Yeah,
there you go.
Tyler Casfan at Fev Tiger got in touch to say, long holidays in the south of France is so last year. Topping up retirement funds in Canada is where it's at.
I wonder if Tyler has the same level of disdain for the Wolfpack that he does for the Dragons.
I think he just hates foreigners. That's what I started to think.
Possibly so. Let's talk about these 4. These are 4 massive signings, aren't they? There will be 4 big signings for a Super League team. Never mind a team that's just been promoted to the Championship, and they will certainly go well in the Championship for Toronto, you would say.
You would think so. You would hope to think that some of these big players will be buoyed on by the joy of playing sort of rugby, where you can get on top of your opponents most of the games you're playing.
Yeah, they're not going to get held back by bullies.
But then thrown in someone who's going to work hard, who's going to try for everything they get, like Olsi Krasniqi, who's come up in his career doing that, and then. Yeah, come the qualifiers stage of the next year, if that's where Toronto end up, you would expect them to end up in that top 4. Couple of players who'll have some points to prove maybe there as well.
Definitely.
So it's all interesting stuff. And it's a sign of their ambition, if nothing else. And, when you're looking at the kind of wider off-the-field product, no matter how much of what they've done has been, freebies and handouts or just people wanting to rock up for the beer festival aspect of the games rather than the games themselves, a lot of those people have been converted to the sport. And the crowd... I mean, there's been some question marks about the size of some of the crowds, whether they were actually what they were, because you couldn't always see all the people all the time. Because a lot of people apparently sat in the shaded part, but sometimes the camera angles. But there's been a couple of games this year, and the last game was definitely one of them, where it's been completely apparent just how full that stadium's been. And to get that sort of support along for a game that meant nothing, even no matter how you got it, is amazing.
Of course, because it shows a marketing strategy being deployed in a massive city where there's already a very finite sporting market in place with what you call inverted continental American sports.
Well, they've managed to draw some of these crowds already on weekends where, Toronto FC have been playing games, or the
Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays, or
the Maple Leafs season hasn't started yet.
Okay.
But it would have, and I'm not sure if it had ended because I don't think they made the playoffs or made any advanced position in the playoffs. But through the Blue Jays season, through the the Canadian football season started about 6 weeks or so ago, so they've had that to compete with as well. And you would think that would be where the crossover of fans sits, and I believe they play their games on Saturdays.